The observer is the observed is to say that the seer and the seen are both just thought. That's all we need. You don't need to analyze the thought too much. We don't need to understand, or we don't need to rationalize any of that. The moment the thought rises, we recognize that the thought and the thinker are both just coming from the ground of memory, and therefore they are both limited, right? And that limited nature of memory is useful for transactional activities, certainly. So we need to engage in, just like now when we are talking on Google Meet or whatever we do transactionally, there this thinker and thought rise up in order for the particular transaction to take place, cooking or whatever we do. But when we get identified with that as I, that's when we have this division between the observer and the observed. And then we get identified as the observer, and then because of that we either try to control the observed, or we are bothered with it, we are running with it, we are indulging in it, all of that. So the direct pointer is exactly what you wrote, which is what Ramana Maharishi also points, which is instantly recognize that it is, like he says in Who Am I? Who is the thought coming to? It's coming to me, right? And that sentence contains the whole thing. Because what that sentence means is the thought along with the thinker are happening to the real seer, me. And that real seer is the I thought, the pure I am. It is still not the, it is still the seed of what rises up in the heart as I, which is seeing the thinker and the thought.
So it is the aham bhava you said
Aham
yesterday,
bhava,
right?
exactly. So when the aham bhava is falsely identified as ahamkara, then we are caught in the observer or the doer or the thinker or whatever. The subject object division, when identified as me and the other, is ahamkara. When the subject object division are both seen as just one movement, as you put it, without any division, then that perception is total attention. Total attention means you're not partially attending to the object by being identified as the subject. You are attending to the object and the subject fully. And it's instantaneous. It's not time bound. It's not like we have to, because that's why, it's not analysis. It's not, because the analyzer is the analyzed again. If we analyze, the analysis is again happening from memory. And we are
Yeah,
identified as,
that's
yeah.
true. That's true. Because this is the other thought that came up that you read it.
Hmm.
The question was, even this, remember Bhagwan's teaching,
Yes.
it's still coming from memory.
Memory.
It's helpful, but it's still
Correct.
coming from memory, right?
Well, see, the thing is, well, it's not, see, memory is when um, we are using a particular knowledge while identified as the knower of it, let's say, right? So here it's a very subtle thing. I mean, you could say, see, whenever when someone, when this case, for example, we have the pointer of Maharishi, it is just saying be alert, that's all, right? Now we could say that that's a memory. It's not really memory though, because you cannot
I
I
see
mean,
what you're saying. So memory in this speak is essentially using a past
right,
thought or a
correct,
memory to inform a future action, whereas
exactly,
there is more of a pointer,
exactly, you got
right?
it,
Like it's a pramana, whereas this other one has a pramata
correct,
that's using the pramana, whereas this one is just a pramana and it's being used
yes,
without bringing a pramata.
beautiful, yeah. You got it. Exactly. So you're not here, that's very well put. Yeah. You're not using some identified as the practitioner who is using a method given and working on something. You're just being told be alert. That's all. And to be alert is not, is actually, if anything, being free of memory. Because when we are caught in memory is when we are not alert. We are then identified as the past, the knowledge which becomes the knower and the known. So to not be identified as the knower is to be alert. But that's not something that is a knowledge, right? It's just a pointer, hey, watch out. That's all. So that watching out is like, that's why there is gratitude to the guru for saying be alert, but it's not it's not memory. Yeah.
No, that makes a lot of sense because I think there's a very small nuance, like you said, and when it's clearly seen, it's quite obvious then. Yeah.
So you're just being present fully, and see, every moment we are present, we don't need to remember Ulladanarpadu or any of that. In fact, if we are resorting to that, we are still not present actually. We are only using some memory from the past. Oh, this is what I learned, or that. Ulladanarpadu, for example, all the verses only bring us to only one question, right? One pointer, which is who is observing, who is watching. So he doesn't give any answers actually, right? Answer is what you can carry in memory. Question you cannot carry really. Watch out, who is the one identified here. Yeah, so when you're just looking at it, you remain alert, and then you don't need see, it'll all come when it's necessary to talk about it. So when you're talking about Ulladanarpadu, we can talk about Ulladanarpadu, right? Or when you're talking about something, any of these pointers. But when it comes to actual presence, actual alertness, if you are recollecting something from any of that, then you are already not present, right? You are, so to be present is to even be aware of the one who is recollecting Ulladanarpadu, right? So if you are just aware that, okay, the memory is trying to use a crutch of Ulladanarpadu, because that becomes a crutch then, right? Okay, then I will, but you are there before that. Your presence is there before the crutch of Ulladanarpadu comes. So who is aware of, who is watching, and who is identifying with this memory? If we stay with that question alone, then we don't have any memory of anything else. So it's very simple in one sense, but it is, I mean, this is all very that's why I said, questions like this are very good, because it helps clarify in many ways some of the cobwebs, as they say, because the brain collects these things, and there is a tendency for us to, I mean, every one of us have to be very alert, and each moment, and whenever we engage in this inquiry, either sitting alone or talking like this, we are looking at it fresh again, right? So one of the things I like about, so Krishnamurti emphasizes this a lot, is that when you listen to a dialogue, listen to a talk, you're listening to it fresh again, right? So there's nothing like, it's not like there's some knowledge that is working to figure out the answer to what you're saying. We can just look at it fresh, and the beauty is the when we are looking at it fresh, the answer is there, the clarity is there. If you're trying to go into memory, then there is confusion, because there is many memories, many different teachers say many things, and this and that. So that's the beauty of this way shown by the true sages is you don't need to know anything, just be alert, that's all. Actually, I read your I mean, you've resolved it yourself, as I said. It's very beautiful, right? That's the beauty of it, is that you have actually looked into it and you have actually verbalized the resolution too. So, which is great. It's not that, that's why, it's like nothing is beyond our own alert inquiry. So, the next thing you also said is in the ordainment itself a concept for surrendering the I when the mind is active. The counter question, who is asking the question, was asked. The I behind the question was seen and it dissolved. See, that's it. You Because ordaining, see, that's why, right? Everything is ordained, is um it's not something that we need to, you know, it's just there as a observation that everything is ordained, but it is not something that we use as a memory again to surrender, right? uh, because that's not how things unfold. See, it's just that that's a more of a secondary thing to, and we don't even really need it. It's just that it comes up once in a while, and so it's good to point out. And of course, Ramana Maharshi has pointed it out clearly, because the thing is, all these ideas of fate and free will all become concepts again.
Correct.
It is true that things are ordained, and only to the extent that it is important to not pray for any outcome, or like think that Bhagavan's will do this, do that, none of that, because we just, but all of that becomes superfluous if we remain present and alert. Then there's natural acceptance of whatever. And then the last one you said, and then we can, of course, talk about anything, but I just want to cover is there a role in memory? I think it's the same thing. Is there a role of memory in spirituality, as instructions or pointers seem to be remembered, or is it only for transactional, as Krishnamurti points out? Yeah. So it was seen that the answer does not matter, as the one asking the question needs to be inquired into. Bhagavan's Ulladu Narpadu was recollected that taking a form, it comes into existence. Taking a form, it grows and sustained, and only on inquiring can it be seen through. Yeah, you put it very well. So it is only, see, memory is only for transactional reasons, and we need memory there, obviously. Anytime we engage in identifying with memory, we are caught in the mind, in the duality. So that is why even when the memory is being used, as much as possible, it is important to remain not identified with it. Quote we shared last week or 2 weeks back in the Wednesday satsang we had, remember, of how Bhagavan said, do things slowly and not. So the thing is, when we are talking, when we are listening, when we are cooking, writing, whatever we do, the tendency of the mind is to identify with the memory. So memory is there at the time. Memory is in fact there every moment. To recognize the book as a book is memory. It's not just that memory is there only when I'm doing. Even sense perception is memory, right? Thinking is memory, speaking is memory, doing is memory. So in fact the whole world is memory, right? That's why another place, in Ulladu Narpadu also it comes, other places, the world is just mind. That's why world, mind are both the same thing, right? So it is necessary and it happens, but our main alertness is that the sense of presence that is simply aware of the movement of memory. So memory can move in its own way, but I am not moving with the memory. I'm not the doer. I'm not the thinker. I'm not the speaker. So that is why it says, sir, see what you're doing when you're listening. When you say I agree or I disagree, you are identified as the listener. So just a very simple thing, but it's very obvious in one sense, but it's still easy to miss it. So takes the time to go into these little things which many people miss when they say, who am I? That's why they don't know what is this who am I question. And even great people said it's a brahmastram, don't take the brahmastram out, because it's very it seems very abstract otherwise. But if you see the I in little things, then you know what the who am I question is. It's like, am I that listener, the voice in the head that says I agree, I disagree, I like this, I don't like this, the constant judgment that happens when I'm, and these are all practical matters, right? Even when you're at work or in family situation, if you're talking to someone, are you talking to that person or are you talking to the image of that person, right? We talk to the image of that person, and we talk from the image of the me, or they're not sounding very fancy. This is where actual moksha is. See, because if you don't free yourself of these, how can you talk of ultimate moksha? Like, if you're not even able to be free of the image of the spouse or the whatever, right? I mean, if you are at that level, then to talk of ultimate moksha, nirvana, all this becomes just, you free here, that freedom will come on its own, right? But for someone like Ramana Maharishi, he was looking at everyone naturally as they are, as the pure being, right? And therefore, in his presence, I mean, for him it was effortless. There's no, I mean, it was just the way it is, right? He look everyone directly into the eye within, not the image, not, like, if you see, because what is there in each of us is that pure presence which is coming forth from the ground of awareness. We see that alone, then everything you do is divine. Everything everyone does is divine. And that is the divine vision, right? That you are not, there is no you there. There is the divine functioning through you and me and everyone. But that's not a concept to understand or to remember. We have to live that, and for that is where inquiry comes. So that, going back to this, so that's why when you see the opposite of it, which is if I'm judging you or agreeing or disagreeing and all of that, I see that the little ego is the one doing it. And if I don't catch that, then I am only fragmenting life into, this is worldly life, and morning and evening I'm sitting in meditation. That's spiritual life, right? And then that is again fragmentation. So we are just looking at it as, every moment, am I present or am I lost in the ego? Am I lost in the ahamkara, as we say? So when we see that, that's all there is to it. But this is the crux of it. It's very simple. We don't need any of that beyond that, right? It's that is every thought that rises, you have to be fully aware and not be identified with it. If you are not attentive, then you are caught as the thinker, and the thought is real, and the thinker and the thought, the duality is in operation. So if I am aware fully of the thought rising and not identified with the thought, then that's exactly what Ramana Maharishi says. He says in Nanyar, no matter how many thoughts rise, every thought you inquire who is the thought rising to. Just the same thing, right? You cannot escape this. So first, for that inquiry to happen, you have to first be aware the thought is rising. Aware, see, it's like this, I'm talking to you. Let's say some judgment rises in me, or let's say some other thought that is taking me away from this conversation comes, I have to be very present to be aware of it. If I'm not even present and that thought is there, or I'm judging you, or I'm agreeing with what you say based on some knowledge I have, I'm disagreeing with what you say based on some knowledge I have, or I'm, anything that is taking me into identification with the past is a movement away from now, is a movement away from being. So we have to be fully present to be aware of any such movement. And when that movement comes, all it takes is it's instantaneous. You recognize this movement, and by the movement doesn't happen. It's you're present on your own. But then even then it's like that's why this Chitraketu story is a beautiful example. Like that instant he judged Shiva. He says, because he was having a conditioning that Shiva having his wife on his lap is somehow not right. But that is exact. So that is how this conditioning hits us, right? Like it happens in many ways. You will, something that comes and you judge someone or something, and then that judgment results in either internal or external expression of something negative or whatever. So all of this is very it happens very fast, right? So we have to be very present, and when you are present and we see this movement, then we don't have to verbalize the question as who am I, but the question is, where is this happening, right? That's all it is, and it's happening in my consciousness, in my existence, right? It's existence. That's without existence there is no thought. So thought is happening along with the thinker in the ground of existence, and the ground of existence is I. And what is this I? So abide as that I. That's all. Like that quote from talks we shared yesterday. That's all you need to do, because you cannot go beyond this. The mind cannot eliminate itself, as he says. The I cannot eliminate the I, but the I can abide as the I. So if the pure I thought, aham bhava. So if you abide as it without identifying and becoming ahamkara, that's all we can do. Every moment, if you abide and negate the rising of ahamkara and bring it back to the pure aham bhav, the pure I sense, and abide as it, then what remains is that I sense, and the I sense reveals itself as awareness, because it is present. It is pure sense of presence, and its very nature is awareness. And that I sense, when it completely dissolves, all there is awareness. But that dissolution happens in its own way, but we can glimpse into it when we see that we are, so the outward movement, when it is curbed and we remain in the heart, so to speak, then the heart pulls it within on its own. That's the whole teaching. Yeah.
So on Sunday, when we were going through that step-by-step meditation, right, pointers, I think one of the pointer was that when you are in the heart, when you are present through the your being or your existence, then the inquiry actually starts. Then the question, who am I, also comes, like, where is the sense of existence coming from? You are in silence. Would you ask a question?
No, you don't have to verbalize the question. Okay. You just remain in that silence, and when there is no thought and there is the sense of I alone remaining, then it is like looking into it. When the I dissolves, there is, the only thing is, there is no sense of knowing there. Leave, like we said, right? Any attempt to capture in memory is always going to only corrupt it, or it's okay. See, the thing is, unarvu, or whatever, the sense of existence, is coming forth from the ground of awareness. And the ground of awareness is not something that has any duality at all. The sense of existence, it brings forth duality. The universe,
Correct.
everything comes forth from it. So it has the seed of duality in it. And so it always wants to go out in that way. So we bring it in and hold it as the pure I feeling, I thought, and you remain with it. Your effort ends there. The beyond takes it. So it's not like you're going to ask verbally, where am I? Where is this coming? Who is this? That's why in one verse he says, Nanendru vayal naviladu ul manatal. So he says that if you don't have to say anything. This is, I think, verse 28 or 29, 29 I think. நானென்று வாயால் நவிலாது உள் ஆழ்மனத்தால் நான் என்று எங்கு உந்தும் என நாடுதலே ஞான நெறி ஆமன்றி அன்று இது நான் ஆம் அது என்று உன்னல் துணையாம் அது விசாரம் ஆமாம். So it's the meaning is, don't say the word I, but within deep in the heart, seek the I, and that is so it's not that we are saying I or even verbalizing where is this I. It is just that we recognize this sense of existence and simply abide as it. You just remain as I am. That sense of existence, as we said, right? You cannot do anything more than that. You just, that's same as asking where is it coming from, who is this. All these questions are not verbal. Just remaining as the pure, thoughtless, still presence. And that I am is the first in the nectar of immortality. Is that it's God announcing himself as I am. It's not God, it's God announcing himself. So it's pure being, Parabrahman, as he says, is beyond the I am. But he announces himself as I am in every living entity. And that is why you look at every living entity, it has that sense of I am. Right? You go to it's nice. If you see a small ant, the ant wants to survive. The ant wants to reproduce. The ant wants to. So there is that sense. The I am feeling is there in every living entity. And even inanimate matter has a tendency to hold itself in certain way and all that, right? So there is that sense of presence everywhere, and that is coming forth from this ground of being. So we can only come in contact with that sense of presence in our heart, which is there unmistakably in everyone. Nobody wants to, as we have said in many ways, everybody loves themselves. Everybody wants to preserve themselves in whatever way they think of themselves, whether it's the body or mind or ideology or religion or whatever. But all of that is coming because of self-love. And self-love is there because of the feeling I am. So that I am is what loves itself. And that I am loving itself is mistaken as love for things appearing out of I am. Right? And therefore, if we recognize that the love I am has for itself is the most powerful love in the manifest world, and we superimpose it on various objects. But if you really look at it, why do I love the body? Because I think it's my body. Why do I love the country? If someone is a patriot, let's say, or someone is this or that, whatever ideology or concept or relationship or position, whatever they love comes out of self-love. And so that self-love is real. All of these other things are projected. So if you recognize that self-love as the sense I am, then I recognize that self-love is the exact same self-love in every living entity. And it's the exact same self also in every living entity. So it is not that, see, if I'll take myself as this body or as all the concepts, ideologies, then it's different from everyone. So I say, oh, I am better than him, I am worse than him, this blah blah, I like him, I don't like him, all the rest. But if I recognize that everybody is functioning out of self love, and the self love is what is mistaken by everyone in various ways, but in reality, what is there in the heart of everyone is that sense of existence. And that sense of existence is pure, is the presence of God, and it is aware, and it loves itself. There's love in that, and that love is reflected in every heart. So that is why we are, in any moment when we are free of identification with the body or the mind or any concepts, then there is no difference between you and me. It's only the I am, and the I am is the same. So, but it cannot be a concept, it has to be recognized. So, the only way I can recognize it, that's why the greatness of Ramana Maharshi's teachings, is that there is no concept here at all, right? It's not about knowing anything, learning anything new. It is tracing you back to your own source, right? And then seeing that you are everything. Like in the Who Am I book, the beginning, he says, there's a long sentence. He says, everyone desires to be happy, and everyone loves themselves. And where is the sense of love and happiness, desire for happiness comes? Traced. So it's a very simple, direct pointer to recognize that the sense of existence as I am is the only reality that manifests everything else, right? Sleep, before I wake up, we don't have that sense. And we don't have any, there we are completely, when we are put in, let's say, under an anesthetic, whatever it may be, what is there at that time? There is an awareness of non-existence. So the awareness is there, but existence is not there. Existence as a embodied. So when we are awake, we have the sense of existence as an embodied being, which hides the awareness.
Awareness, yeah.
So we cannot go to awareness but through this.
That's a very different way of looking at it, yeah.
Even to cognize the past, I have to exist.
Correct.
So past is not before me. I am before the past. Right? So these are all, so all of time comes only after I am. We didn't have Upanishads, didn't declare it in this way of, in the talks, day by day, he says in his own way, he says,
It's true.
It's true. So Ramana Maharshi tells Devaraj Mudaliyar, because they don't, they say there's a cloak of mysticism or a cloak of little bit, whereas he put it out very clearly. That's grace. But that's the thing, right? Is that if you recognize it, then past, present, and future are after I am.
Thinking that even Bhagwan, when he said it so clearly, very few people still get it. Yeah. So hard. It's not a matter of like saying clearly or not, on a prepared mind. I think, like anything, so grateful to him. Like,
of course, yeah. So otherwise, we'll not even get this clarity.
Correct.
Without someone saying this. And all are great. Say Ramana is like a beginning of a new epoch, because it opened up this way. And then it's like, it's all divinely ordained again. It is, because then they all came. Everyone has added more clarity and more, so
yeah,
that's all.
Very true. Yeah. I also got a little bit of insight into what you meant by ordainment, because I think when you were saying that from this state of being or existence, everything comes, and because of that, everything is divine. There's nothing that is right or wrong,
Yeah.
or good or bad, because everything is just coming from the same divine source.
Right.
Essentially, it's divine, and that's what ordainment is, right?
Yes.
Because if everything is coming from that same source and everything is divine, so it doesn't matter
Yes.
how it manifests, right? And however it manifests is ordained
Yeah.
that way.
Exactly.
So it's
No, that's exactly right. I mean, it's all coming for. See, the main point for us to, therefore, it all comes down to is to recognize the sense of I am, which is in our heart, because that's the only thing that we can directly be in touch with. Everything else can, as you rightly said, even ordainment is good, is you can see it clearly, but it's not something. It can become a concept then if we start looking at it in that way, or if we see it from the heart, then it's, as you just now said it nicely, even that becomes clear in terms of it is ordained because it's all coming from the divine, and the divine announces himself as I am from the heart, and from that comes forth, right? I mean, there is, the whole thing comes up because of our existence. So that coming forth is all happening, unfolding spontaneously. Look at everything around, nature around, it's all just spontaneously bustling with color and life. All, where is this all coming from? Coming forth because of the sense of existence. And I can only be in touch with that existence. And there is nothing else other than that sense of existence that perceives all of this. And therefore, there is no other than the sense of existence, right? So it's only the sense of existence, and that perceives everything, people, places, all of it. If we recognize and abide as it, then we are not pulled out into this me and other. That's all.
Yeah, no, it's very true. I'm smiling because I remember after coming back from long retreats, because the mind was so clear and pretty much thoughtless, right? And so when I would walk, so I would take the bus and I would walk from bus stop to my workplace, and the colors would just be so more vibrant because there was no I coming into the picture, right? So you're
Nice.
just
Yeah.
your state of existence and the things around,
Yeah.
and you were just in the moment, and then
Yeah.
you didn't see from, there was no coloring from
Yeah.
your mind, right? So it
Exactly.
just was so much more, everything came alive so much more.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know if others feel it. Today we were walking. It was just striking to see the colors. The green. Look at this green. It's just so. It just hits you, right? I mean, it's so vivid and so alive. It can be every moment when we are not caught in the commentary in the head. Yeah.
We overthink and we overanalyze, and that I comes in every moment. Like you said, you have to be very very alert.
Yeah, that's it. We have to have uh, alertness and that readiness to let go of everything, right? Like not be caught in, like, courage is to not be caught in any of these, right? To just let go of all concepts, to let go of all knowledge. That needs courage. You are basically, as they say, you're like naked because you're not hiding yourself behind anything, and that requires courage in ways.
Yeah, grace just showing up in different ways.
That's it. So we are always in that, and it's great to bask in it. And see, when you are alone also, or when you are, see, that's why there's no distinction then between sitting alone or talking to someone. Whatever you do, that sense cannot leave you if you're aware of it.